Hey guys, welcome to Jen Lowry Writes. Today I'm doing an educational video on how all of my teacher friends and homeschool families can use Jamboard. I absolutely love Jamboard. I use it for my author world, not just for my classroom. So if you want to know how you can actually apply this, if you're a writer, trust me, you're going to see it. You're going to say, okay, I can make this work. I've even put a couple of slides in there for any authors who might happen to pop in. So first, I would like to draw your attention. So like when you are going over to your Google Suite, you will see Jamboard. I'm going to pull up my screen and share everything. All right, so you're going to come over and see your Jamboard there. So this is just an example of me working Jamboard for some of my novels. I absolutely love it. I'm going to be using it from now on into eternity. But I wanted to go with just the teacher talk right now because it's so easy to come up and share your Jamboard. When you click on it, you can share it right away. And you would be able to give this link to your students or your homeschool co-op, or if you're working with homeschool groups, or you could do it for a business meeting, a planning, a club. So there's so many uses for Jamboard. One thing that I really loved with my students is we talked about my one good thing. So last Friday, my students jumped on our Jamboard that we have for our class, and they were able to create a quick sticky note, and they told what their one good thing was from that week. And when a student's actual response was, I got a new puppy, then we had the dog discussion in class, and everybody wanted to see pictures and everybody wanted to know about the dog's name. And it just gave tons of opportunities for students to share about their one good thing. So, my one good thing, love that idea. Another way that you can use Jamboard is that you can actually hold an interactive gallery walk. So you see how I pulled, this could be your gallery boards, as if you would have had posters in your classroom or stations set up around your room, just as if you would have been doing it in a hallway or in your classroom. You can use a Jamboard to actually create a gallery walk just by adding new slides and adding your links in. So what's really cool is you can add images. So you can find an infographic. If you want to make your own infographics, you can do those on canva.com. But you can go online, you can quickly add images and a Google search. So you could do an infographic on inference, maybe, if you're learning about that. So what is an inference, or how to make an inference? And so this could be something that you could add up here. And then this could give the students an opportunity to see the infographic or the anchor chart. And then you could actually have an image here. You can use a poster, an art, a painting, a sculpture, and say, what can you infer? How does this relate back to the text that we're reading? So this is just an example of how you can build gallery walks. You can also add links. So you could come here to a sticky note and you could actually add your link where your student would click and it would take them to a YouTube video for you to be able to have them watch a history.com biography, and then they could come back and you could have questions on the side on sticky notes that they would have to come under and answer. So many ways you could do a gallery walk with this. So don't think, well, now that I'm not in my classroom anymore, in face-to-face instruction, that I can no longer have gallery walks, because you can use the Jamboard for that. Okay, 4 corners. I want to show you guys my 4 corners that I did with my students. All I did was put different pictures across the screen. And then the students were able to come in and actually put where they kind of fit. And then we had discussions from these. You could see that a lot of the students had some things in common. And so Four Corners is a great discussion strategy that you could use for many different types of discussion avenues. So you could make sticky note discussions, and then the students could pull through from those, or you could change these 1, 2, 3, 4s, and you could make images. Or you could read it out loud, and the students would have to move and navigate their sticky note. You could just keep one board. And then the students could move to the corner. That would be their option. So that's one way to use it. Just for strictly having a discussion board. Guys, in the spring, when we first started virtual learning, I was at this point where I was going, how am I going to have discussion posts? I know a lot of people like that option on Google Classroom, but I was just like, no, I wanted to pull them off of there. I wanted it somewhere. I created this Google Doc. It seemed so complicated. I gave them all these spaces where they were supposed to write in. And then I just ended up saying, no, this is not working. And then that's when I learned about Jamboard, and we started having discussion board questions. And so for example, last week in class, we were about to walk into Act 1, Scene 1 of Romeo and Juliet, and what better way than to discuss how do you deal with conflict? And so the students were already talking about, I would walk away, I would try to keep the peace, and I'm like, well, you're going to really relate to Benvolio. And it was a way that I was able to take what they were writing and match it up with characters that they were going to be introduced to that day. So the discussion board is just endless. The thing about the discussion boards is that they are anonymous too. So you would have to encourage students to go and put either their initial or put their name if you would like to know who's saying what. Because when it's popping up there, you're not going to know. So that is one thing that I'd have to go back and tell my students. I would have to say, okay, you need to go and put your name there. I want to know who said that they made a great grade on their social studies test. I'd love to know who you are. So just training them to put their name on their sticky note is important. Okay. Another way we can use Jamboard, because students love to have these check-in reflection discussions with me, I am huge into metacognitive conversations. And we're not face-to-face, and I'm not able to, read their body language, check their emotions on their faces, pick up on those nuances. So what better way than to allow them to get images and post emojis, or do some sticky note self-reflections or daily check-ins. This could be done at the beginning of class or at the end of class. And all you have to do, share the link on your Google slide. Kids are clicking. It's very fast. They're popping in and going. So I started training my students on the protocols of the different tools that we were going to be using the first week of school. And I knew that Jamboard was important for our class discussions and some of the activities moving forward. So I used them in our getting to know you activities a lot. That way it broke the barrier of, I don't know how to use this tool. They figured it out pretty quick, and we've been rocking it since then. So a student showcase. And here's what I mean by this. I'm going to give you an example. My students are getting ready to do a storyboard that assignment where they're going to have to go and create a panel, and they're going to have a 3-panel comic strip. Well, how are we going to share all of those out where they can have peer reviews and they can also showcase their work? Easy. Each kid puts a sticky note here and they drop their link on their sticky note. So kids would be able to view those and go into their actual sites that would have their storyboard, that assignment there, and they'd be able to look at it. So think about all of the ways that you want to showcase students' products. You could do that in a Jamboard. We're also going to be creating a soundtrack, and students are going to have to choose, music from YouTube that go along, and they've got to be the karaoke versions with the lyrics on the screen. And they have to choose those videos that go along with the themes of Romeo and Juliet and have to be school appropriate. And so when we're creating our soundtrack, we're actually going to have a place where they can drop in their links, and you could just do drop in lyrics and they could put them on the sticky notes. to. And then they can tell their reasons why. And then students can go, so like, let's say they do their lyrics here. Then maybe another student would have to come in with a different color, and they would have to try to pick out which theme it was. Then the students could work around the themes of this person's lyrics. And then another student could come in and they could do a +1 and save that one. And then they could come here. And so students could come in and drop different colors based on what you're asking them to do. Make a +1 connection. Yellow are the themes that you've seen as connections because this student picked these lyrics for a reason. Now let's try to see why. And then we could ask that student, were they right? Were these the themes that you saw? Did you learn something new? So that is a way to do a student showcase. Now, I've done 7 and 8, but this is the same thing. This is for my writer people out there. Like for the classroom, it would be really cool if students could do plot diagramming and just follow story structure. And you could just pull this as an image, a JPEG that I got right off the internet. I do not own this image, but I just did it, put it in here just to show you. And students could come in and do different colors for the different parts. You could create your own on Canva. I love the Save the Cat beat sheet. You can actually use this with your students, but you can also use it in your other worlds. And you can just do a sticky note right here. And I actually plotted, I was just telling my people, I actually plotted the 3rd act first, and then I worked backwards. So this would be great for organization, but you can label and organize and put sticky notes over images. So think about any kind of diagram or map, or not just an infographic, but any kind of visual that you could put in the center and students could label and graph. You can also come over here and let me see. Let me show you how they can draw. I made a circle here. You can do that. You can fill it in. So there's different things that you could have the students work within. You can see some of the different options. I love the sticky note one the best. You can erase. The text boxes are cool. You can line them up. All right, so students can also, see, upload their own images. You can upload your own teacher images. Okay, I'm gonna show you the pen. I was looking for the pen and I was like, where did it go? So you can pick the pen. What I love about the pen, okay, that's a terrible heart, but the students could like pull this out and then put a sticky note over here if in case it's like, hello, people. And then they can attach it and say, oh, it goes there. That's where I meant it to go. I was trying to show you guys the pens. I love the pens. You can also change the backgrounds. Now, I always love black backgrounds when I am working with my my author world. But then you can change it up. Look at the grids, the graph paper, the text paper, the dots for the bullet journal people out there in the world. So absolutely love this. So something else that you can do on a Jamboard is you can actually annotate on a Jamboard. So you could do a whole Tipcast lesson right here with your kids as a teaching model. And then you could give students, like you could use this as a model, and then you could give students their own Tipcast with their own poetry. You can have them have their own boards because all you're doing is hitting next frame. You see this? Every time you hit next, you can build a student a new frame. So a student could have their own poetry pieces and you could find different extensions. and they could work on their own Tipcast, or you could have them all working on a different board and they could go back and forth and get help from other students. And so you can pull, oh, I need to get off the pen now. But you could pull sticky notes. And so this one could be for the T, and then they would have to come in and they could answer it right there, or they could write it however you would want them to do it. They could also come over and show where the shift occurs. And so with the shift, they could come over and find it, and they can say, okay, there's a theme emerging when there is a shift. So they could go over and circle and annotate right on their work. So you could do this with anything. So just get your picture images and add them in. You can also make vocabulary cards. Now, I love to use Quizlet, and if you guys want me to do a Quizlet video for you, I will, because I highly recommend Quizlet for this. However, you can have your students come here. You could drop a bunch of pictures down below and your words, or you could have the students go and find words that match. So if they're doing, like, for example, we talked about foreshadowing today. The students could make a sticky note for foreshadowing. Then they could go get text supports for the foreshadowing, where he had this dream and it's going to be an untimely death. I'm not giving anything away. It's Romeo and Juliet. So they could go back and they could cite evidence. So you could do this for all kinds of things. So it could be foreshadowing, textual evidence, a clip of the image that we found from the clip of the movie, or you could do images of foreshadowing just for the term itself. So you could definitely teach the students how to find textual evidence, and then allow them to showcase their textual evidence. And then what could be really cool is if you are doing a textual evidence piece, you could have them come back in after other students had worked them. They can change the colors. They could say, okay, blue is the best. And then they could say, maybe yellow was, weaker, but, green was okay, whatever color codes that you would do. And then the students could go in and they could change their colors of their sticky notes. And then they could order them. So they could put the strongest textual evidence then to the weakest textual evidence. That would just be great activity to do on its own. You could also come back and have like parking lots, graffiti walls. What we're going to use it for is a video text share. So when we are comparing two or more texts, a lot of times it's important for students to have a +1. What questions did it raise? That could be a +1. What did you notice is a +1. What are the connections? That is a +1. And so however you want to do that, while students are watching a video, they could come over to the Jamboard and use it kind of as a note-taking piece. And they could add their +1. You could set it up like it wouldn't even have to be just one. Think about how like the Padlets are set up. Like you could have your pluses going all the way across. So this one could be like, you could do connections here. Then you can add, the next one could be, what did you notice? And then you would probably want to change that color. And then your next sticky note could be, what questions do you have now? Hopefully the video that you showed is going to spark that +1 in their mind to keep them going and to keep them discussing. So you could do this all the way across, and then students could come under with their stickies and add underneath the columns that you've created. So these are the ways that you could use Jamboard in your class, and there are so many more, but I wanted to just quickly come on and show you guys kind of like the top 10 ways that I've been brainstorming. I probably had 11 in there. After I started talking about textual evidence, that was probably 11. But I wanted to just share those with you because I absolutely love this tool. And what I have found, and this is just our 3rd week of school, and I know my students are still getting to know me, but what I have found is that asking students to engage in the chat versus asking them to engage on the Jamboard, I have a higher participation rate. So I'd love for you to try this, and then you tell me what your participation rate is. I have 100% students participating on the Jamboard. And then with the chat, sometimes I'm sitting there and I'll say, crickets, crickets, chat. There's the chat. Come on, let's talk. Let's share. What did you notice? What did you discover? What did that action show you about his character? And then it's like crickets. So by going over to the Jamboard and asking a spark question like, how do you deal with conflict? Or what did you notice about the relationship between Mercutio and Romeo during the Queen Mab speech? Then you get the discussion going, and then it starts to come to life, and students start expressing their thoughts. And so I do want you to understand that, all of us value the voice of our students. We just need to keep looking for tools that can help them share their voice. And I feel that Jamboard is a great tool for that. So I hope that this video has been helpful. And I'm getting off because I homeschool in just a few minutes, and I am saying goodbye. Any more educational videos that you might like, let me know. I am not an expert when it comes to tech tools, but I am so willing to try and learn and continue to look for ways to increase student engagement in my class. So the Jamboard gets a thumbs up for me, 100%. Going to be using it for the entire semester, and for my writing life, definitely using it for planning. All right, guys, I hope that y'all have a great day. Bye.